Yes. What's happening, everybody? It is Wednesday night. Not the usual time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We're doing it a day late this week because we just did Stat Diggers last night on Pub Sports Radio. Happy anniversary to my man DFS by the Numbers, who is out of town celebrating his anniversary with his wife. So we postponed the show. Not the greatest card in the world here, but we do have a break week coming up. And it's much needed, you guys. I've been at this now for 15 out of the last 16 weeks. This being the 15th week out of the last 16 weeks that I've been doing content and doing all these shows. So it's been a long stretch. Definitely need some time off. Definitely need some time away from the mic to do some behind the scenes stuff to spice up the Patreon. I've got a couple things in the works right now that are really cool. And over the week off, I'm going to be building those into the spreadsheets and into the analytics to take this to the next level. Really looking forward to sharing that with you guys as we come back from the break week. But first, let's talk about last week. Last week was not bad. It was up 2.05 units for me. We'll start with the bad. I lost 1 unit on the Daniel Rodriguez money line. I'd make that bet again, but he got caught. And Ian Gary, he looks to be special. He looks like he's got it all, really good, powerful striking, solid takedown defense, a good grappling game when it does go down there. He's huge for the division. He's young. He's improving. So he really looks like he's the real deal. That's a good win over Daniel Rodriguez. And then I also had a quarter unit on Jailton Almeida to win by first round. I'm sorry, on Jairzinho Rosenstruik to win by first round knockout at plus 1,200. Took a long shot there. It did not pan out. So down 1.25 units on those two bets. Had a 1 unit bet at plus 120 on the Williams Sherman over 2.5 rounds that cashed. Had a 3-leg parlay at minus 103 that cashed. Carl Williams money line. Carlos Ulberg, which was Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week money line, and the fight doesn't start round 3 for the main event. So that cashed pretty comfortably there at minus 103 for 0.97 units. Then I had a quarter unit bet on Douglas Silva de Andrade to win by decision at plus 450. So that was 1.12 units won there for a grand total of 3.05 units on those bets. 3 units on those 3 bets, up 2.05 units on the week. The ass shaving of the week was Ulberg. He came through and made it look really easy against Ihor Potieria. So that one, he was a big favorite. I'm not going to do a victory lap on that one. The greasy 4-leg parlay, you guys, we haven't hit one in a minute. And we had the over 1.5 rounds in the Williams fight. That hit easily. We had the Means-Morono fight doesn't go to decision. That hit easily. We had the fight doesn't start round 3 for the main event. That hit easily. And then we had Ji-Yeon Kim to win by decision. And Mandy Bohm pulls that bullshit that she pulled. Veteran move. Fair play on her. You're trying to get that win check. And, it was the second foul. She probably thought that Kim was going to be disqualified if she faked that she couldn't go on there. So she decided not to go on. And she wound up winning it on the scorecards because she got round 1 on 2 out of the 3 judges' scorecards. So we were so close. If it wasn't for the fact that Ji-Yeon Kim had 1 leg going into that fight, like with these knee sleeves on that were absolutely huge, made her look old as fuck. I was just surprised, that she wasn't able to get the job done against such a horrible fighter. But it's time. Dana White, cut Mandy Bohm now. Sean Shelby, whoever it is that's in charge of the rosters here, cut Mandy Bohm. We don't want to see her here anymore. She sucks. She's a faker. She's a terrible fighter, which is the most important reason to cut her. It's the fact that you're cutting Jessica Rose Clark and cutting Ji-Yeon Kim. It sends a horrible message for you to not cut Mandy Bohm along with those two. So cut Mandy Bohm now. Don't make us wait anymore. And then this week we've got the Dern Hill main event, 5 rounds. Co-main event is Shabazian versus Fluffy Hernandez. It's going to be a great fight. I'm really looking forward to breaking down this card with you guys. What's up to everybody hanging out live here? We got 19 of you live creeping in here at the beginning of the show. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Let's see who's hanging out with the chat, in the chat with us here. My guy, Victor De Jesus, huge Mandy Bone fan here, saying, oi, yes, what's up, Weezy and chat? Guys, unless you have a strong take on a fight, watch your bankroll. Personally, I'm going extremely light on this card as of now. I've actually got, what do I got right now? I've got 4 units of bets so far. I might touch up a couple more things here, but yeah, I mean, I could definitely see 4 being enough units on a card like this. And, you know, I do have some leans. I'll tell you guys what bets I'm making here, but Vic's absolutely right. You know, this is definitely a time to mind your P's and Q's here and exercise good bankroll management on a low-level card. My guy Luke bet you from the MMA Engine in the house saying, oi, Weezy, your thoughts on favorite Yambag play of the card and why is it the Michael Johnson CDF fight? Well, that's a good one because it's a southpaw versus orthodox fight. Definitely see a lot of pressuring from our guy CDF. So that could definitely happen there. And I do see that fight going over 2.5 rounds as well. So it gives us some time for that foul to happen. But yeah, southpaw versus orthodox, constant pressure from Carlos Diego Ferreira, perhaps some grappling from him as well. We'll see how it all goes, but I think that's a pretty good spot to look at it this week. We got Iceland Farts in the room saying, hey, everyone, what's up, dude? We got Yalo in the room saying, oi, what's up, Unc? What's happening, dude? Can we open up this stream by talking about how much of a shitbag Mandy Bohm is, Kim's performance aside? Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Absolute fake performance there by her. Goes to the Aljamain Sterling School of Acting, the Luana Pinheiro School of Acting there. Yeah, I just don't see why she should continue to be in the UFC. It makes no sense at all. But, you know, hopefully if we get enough of us come together and demand that Mandy Bohm be cut, she might have one more fight left on her deal. That is a possibility. But if there isn't any more fights left on her deal, they absolutely do not need to re-sign her. Cuban Assassin in the room saying, what it do, Weezy? I was thinking the other day that I think you would be an excellent MMA journalist. We need Weezy in that post-fight press room. That would be interesting. I've never gotten media credentials for an event before, and I don't know if anyone would actually give me media credentials. They could probably get fired if they did. You know me, I'm going to ask the real questions when I'm in there, but that would be interesting. We'd have to see how that actually goes if that were to ever happen one day. We got Robert A. Poppy in the room saying, oh, what's up, dude? We got Brandon Stelly saying, let's go. Oi, what's up, Brandon? We got Daz File saying, oi, 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 what's up, Daz? Good to see you in here as always. Kevin Atari saying, Unc, love you, G. What's up, Kevin? Thank you for hanging out. I bet the over in the D-Rod fight, LOL. Dude, I mean, I bet the D-Rod money line. So you and I both had about the same chance of winning, didn't we? It did not go well for us. I mean, it happens to the best of us, though. Brandon saying, Jailton Almeida helped me break even after Walker started chilling mid-fight. Yeah, I think a lot of people had violence in that fight. A lot of people were really disappointed that Johnny didn't step on the gas a little bit more. It definitely looked like Smitty wasn't all the way there. You know, it didn't look like he was all the way there. Saying weird ass shit during the fight. You know, I don't know what's going on with that guy right now. But yeah, Walker, good performance, clean performance. He just didn't step on the gas and finish the fight. Cole Stein saying, oi, Weezy. We got my guy Clint in the room, Dire MMA Podcast, saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Good to see you in here, Clint. Love that new logo, by the way, brother. M.A. Liren saying, oi, I had read on your Twitter that you might skip this one, and I wouldn't blame you. Yeah, I was actually considering it. But you guys know that you can't keep me away from you guys. Marcus Williams, locked in and watching your show, the Nubian Bookstore in Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, dude? Good to see you in here, Marcus. I know that my man Marcus, now, he didn't need Johnny Walker to finish the fight in order to cash that big ticket. So I know that we saw Connor Roundtree on the MMA Hour. Shout out our guy Marcus here for his big bet, his big cash on Johnny Walker. So much love much congratulations to my guy Marcus Williams there. Really appreciate you stopping in and watching the show, brother. Thanks for hanging out. We got Giallo saying, do I think Stamen should have won that decision? I actually bet DSDA to win by decision. I was under the impression that it was going to be a split after the fight ended. Stamen cleanly won that third round, and the first and the second were close. I personally scored DSDA for rounds 1 and 2. I did have him winning both, but I don't think that really means anything because I had bet him to win by decision. So even if he lost those rounds, I probably would have scored them for him because, I was rooting for him. So definitely a close fight. I've seen bigger robberies, obviously. And when we were on the Pub Sports radio live stream watching that fight, pretty much everybody on the screen with me, when I was saying, I think it's close, everybody on the screen with me was saying, nah, man, DSDA won those first 2 rounds. So I don't know, man. I know that a lot of people were very disappointed by that decision. It went my way, so I was happy with the decision, but it was a close fight. I wouldn't have called it a robbery if it had went either way because it was a close fight. And then Clint is saying, thank you, my friend. Thank you for hanging out, Clint. Can't wait to do the show with you coming up soon here after the break week, I believe. We're going to be talking about doing the show again. And right now, what we got to do, you guys, is we have to do just the tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We got 12 fights to break down, so let's do it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. And as always, these stats can be obtained by joining my Patreon. The link is in the description below, and it's also right here below my name on the screen. Check that out. Best way to support my work. And make sure that I'm able to continue doing this for you guys week after week, because when I got people supporting me on the Patreon, it makes me able to pay the bills without having to go out and work other jobs. And if I didn't have to do that, it allows me to do better work with this. So appreciate everybody that supports me on the Patreon. So let's start talking about these fights. We're going to start talking about the curtain jerker, which is going to be Takashi Sato versus Themba Gorimbo. And let me get my notes up here, you guys. So Takashi Sato, he's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He's got 7 more pro fights, 25 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 5 more UFC fights and almost 40 more minutes in the octagon. He also has the power advantage, as he's got 2 UFC knockdowns and 2 wins by KO in the UFC. His straight left hand is nasty, and he melted Witt and Saunders with that technique. Sato has definitely fought the much better level of competition overall and in the UFC. Yes, he did knock out 2 of the chinniest dudes in the history of a promotion, but he does have legitimate power. And we can tell by the knockout rate of 73% in a 15-win sample size. So the guy's got a lot of knockouts. Themba Gorimbo, he's a little bit younger, 6 months. But he's going to be the bigger dude, 2 inches taller, 3.5-inch reach advantage. So there are some nice measurables advantages here for Themba. There really isn't much of a sample size of UFC stats, but he's a tricky submission grappler. He's awkward and dangerous on the feet. He mainly uses his awkward striking to explode in, and then that sets up either a big shot or an entry into the clinch where he goes for that body lock takedown, where he tries to get the fights to the ground. Themba's shown the ability to wrestle and win minutes on the ground. And against an opponent like Sato, who's lost 91% of the control time positions that he has been in. We can see here, he's got 2% control time for, 27% control time against. So he's only winning 8.46% of the control time positions that his fights have been in. So this is an area where Themba can exploit that 60% takedown defense that Sato has shown and get this fight to the ground and win minutes there safely by not having to deal with Sato's straight left hand on the ground. And not only that, Sato's got really bad submission defense. So I'm sure that Themba, if he's smart, would rather get this fight to the ground. So, but I don't think either of these guys is UFC level right now. I'm not putting my money on either of these guys. With Sato, you've got a great straight left, but if he doesn't land that left hand, he doesn't do anything. And then with Gorimbo, he's got some of the worst technical striking I've seen, but I think I can count on him to wrestle and make Takashi fight the fight that he has looked really bad fighting in the past. So I got to lean Gorimbo here because I think that Gorimbo might be just as dangerous as Takashi Sato on the feet. But he's with his ability to be able to mix in that wrestling, I think he's got more paths to win this fight. I'm going to pick Themba Gorimbo to win this fight by second round submission. And I did parlay up the under 2.5 rounds in this fight. And if you look at the prop template here, I could show you guys the analytics that led me to make this bet. So the under 2.5 at minus 165 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, 62% implied probability. It's a 17% overpayment when we compare the price of the line to the benchmark for the division, which is 45% of the 170-pound fights that are scheduled for 3 rounds go under 2.5 rounds. But with Takashi Sato, 5 of his 6 UFC fights have finished under 2.5 rounds. And for Gorimbo, it's 1 of 1. So 85.71% of their 7 combined fights have finished inside the distance. And wherever this fight goes, I think somebody's going to be dangerous because on the feet, Themba's got a little bit of power, but Takashi Sato's got a lot of power. And if the fight goes to the ground, Takashi Sato's got piss poor submission defense. So I think it's a pretty safe fight to finish inside the distance. I parlayed up the minus 165 for the under 2.5 rounds here. The prop template likes it. It is a small sample size, but I think that stylistically, I like one of these guys to finish here. I'm going to pick Themba Gorimbo to get a second round submission, though, over Takashi Sato here. There we go. Okay. And I don't think I even got my guy Patrick is in the room saying got off stream just in time for Just the Tip. Good evening, Unc. What's up, Patrick? Good to see you hanging out in here. Thank you for even watching more mixed martial arts content after just doing some yourself, brother. Big ups to you and everybody. And big ups, by the way, to Patrick. Big success here. Getting to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Absolutely a fantastic accomplishment, brother. You deserve it 100%. And let's keep that count going up. All right. So I did not get the lines up here. This is a pick'em fight, you guys. Both guys minus 110. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 190. I think violence is a great look in this spot. I think that the Themba Gorimbo money line is not a bad look either. I think he's got more paths to win this fight. But Takashi Sato is live for a number of reasons as well. So going to be staying away from the money line on this one, but I do like violence here. And the pick is going to be Gorimbo by submission. All right, the next fight that we have is Natalia Silva at minus 1,000. A women's favorite at minus 1,000. What could possibly go wrong? Against Victoria Leonardo at plus 700. We got the fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up for a women's fight here at minus 170. So with Silva, she's 7 years younger than Victoria. She's got a 1-inch reach advantage, and she's the southpaw here. She has the overall experience advantage with 7 more fights, 35 more minutes in the pro cage, and 3 more years as a pro fighter. Silva's a lot more experienced. She took her first pro fight at the age of 18 years old, and for Leonardo, she was 28 when she turned pro. Natalia has the better striking, and it's not really even close at all, really. Natalia's distance striking differential in the small UFC sample size we have for her is positive 5.9 distance strikes per minute spent at distance. And Victoria's is negative 3.04. So, the level there, like Silva, far, far, far above average, and Leonardo way, way, way below average. And then when you watch on tape, the speed difference, is hilarious almost. And then the technique difference is crazy too, because Silva's just so fast and crisp, always throwing in combination, always mixing up her targets and her techniques. While this fight is on the feet, Victoria Leonardo is going to be in a whole shitload of trouble. Natalia is just really looked good thus far, but she's faced good grapplers too, which is why I think that we're seeing this line where it's at minus 1,000, 91% implied probability there that the bookies are saying Natalia Silva wins this fight. And Natalia's also shown 92% takedown defense, and she's faced 13 takedown attempts in only 2 UFC fights. She's stuffed 12 of them. And she has been controlled for 32.33% of her UFC cage time. A lot of cage control time for Bleda and Jasudavicius when in those two fights. But, both Jasudavicius and Bleda are better wrestlers and better grapplers than Victoria Leonardo. So I kind of feel like Natalia Silva has already passed this test twice against tougher competition, against tougher girls. And she's getting just a small step down in competition here for Victoria Leonardo. And another reason to cut Mandy Bohm is that's how little a win over Mandy Bohm is respected. Victoria Leonardo is actually coming off of a win. That win is against Mandy Bohm. And even though she is coming off a win, she's a plus 650 underdog to Natalia Silva in this spot. So that's how much the betting community is respecting that win over that bum Mandy Bohm, that bad actor Mandy Bohm. So it's going to be a tough row to hoe here for Victoria. She's got a little more UFC experience with one more fight, almost 10 more minutes in the octagon in comparison to Natalia. She's the more committed wrestler. She's heavy on top, and she does win some minutes in the clinch. She's definitely faced a much better level of competition in her career. She's going to need to get this fight to the ground and rack up top control in order to have any chance at all at winning this fight. And she's going to have to do it in every single round, because every minute that this is spent at distance, the chances that Silva finds a big shot to knock out Victoria, it just keeps going up and up and up in probability. So in summary, Silva's a huge favorite here, and with very good reason. She's younger. She's more well-rounded. Her striking is so much better than Vicky's that it isn't even funny. She's on an 8-fight winning streak at the moment, and her excellent performances against Jasmine and Bleda being our most recent memories of what we've seen from her in the cage. I can see why this line has gotten so wide. This should be Silva all day, but, it's women's MMA. Betting a minus 1,000 women's favorite, what could go wrong, right? So just tread very lightly. And when you start fucking with minus 1,000 favorites, I don't care how smoking hot they are, you guys, these props become unbettable. I mean, you got to try to choose between the KO or the submission. KO plus 150, submission plus 215, and it's even minus 175 for Silva inside the distance. So you even got to lay 1.75 units just to win one. And what if she doesn't finish her then? So it's a very hard fight to bet. My money won't be going anywhere near this fight. But I am going to pick Natalia Silva to win this fight. I'm going out on that limb, you guys. That's why you love me, because I make the tough choices so that you don't have to. And I'm picking Natalia Silva. I'm going to pick it. No, knockout in round 3. I'm going to just go with it. She just wears Victoria down and then eventually gets her out of there in round 3. So, yeah, Natalia Silva, looking good, girl. Fighting is definitely something that she's very, very good at, you guys. And like I say, really good grapplers already. Bleda, Jasudavicius, both good wrestlers. She's passed this test a couple times, so I get it. It's tough to see her finding a way to lose this fight. And let's see here. Let's get back to the stats. We'll get to the next fight, which is going to be Chase Hooper versus Nick Fiore. First of all, in the chat here, we got my guy Justin J saying, "Oi, howdy, Weezy, and greetings, chat." Undercover MVP saying he's got a weird feeling Sato sleeps him. Dude, it's absolutely a possibility. Absolutely a possibility. Sato's got serious power, and Themba Gorimbo just isn't that very good, you guys. He's just not that good. I don't know how he got into the UFC in the first place. Really no signature wins on his resume outside the UFC, but here he is. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Daz File saying, Pat the Legend, what's up, man? I appreciate you, Unc. I remember when you hit 1K. Thanks for paving the way. I appreciate you, dude. We gotta help each other out here in this community, man. It's always better when the content creators are friends and help lift each other up rather than start with some dumbass argument between people that you see sometimes out there. It's always better when we're on each other's side doing the same work. He's saying what's up to Daz Files. LPX saying, finishing the pub radio episode with Brady, then coming to watch this. Thank you for your passion and hard work, Weezy. LPX, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for hanging out with us here. Thank you for your attention. And you guys, hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And leave me a comment down below, even if it's just a yell, oi. Always like to hear what you guys have to say. Any constructive criticism about the work, anything you got, leave those comments down below. We got Jenna Marie in the house. What's up, Jenna? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got M. Tess saying, what's up, Weezy? Thoughts on Loopy? We'll get to that. I've got that fight written up. It's an interesting fight. Iceland farts in the rude saying, M. Treya, he will be getting to the fight in a little. Yeah, I will be. I will be. But right now, we're going to talk about this Chase Hooper versus Nick Fiore fight. Now, Chase Hooper on Bet Online plus 102 right now. Fiore, the favorite, minus 122. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up at minus 190 here. All right. So, got those stats up on the screen. Let's talk about Chase Hooper first. He's 2 years younger. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. So, he's the bigger dude here. He's a southpaw, too, so that's tricky to deal with. Chase is more experienced overall and in the UFC with 8 more pro fights, 120 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 2 more years as a pro. So he's bigger and he's more experienced here at overall and at the UFC level, because at the UFC level, he's got 5 more fights, almost 50 more minutes in the octagon. He does his best work in the grappling exchanges, and that's because his striking is trash, ladies and gentlemen. The stat of this fight is Chase Hooper's 40.69% distance striking defense. Absolutely putrid. He blocks punches with his face, and it's not working for him, you guys. It's not working for him at all. But when he's on the mat, he's very dangerous. He's very aggressive with his submission attempts. Chase has finished all 3 of his UFC wins, and they've all come on the mat. Fiore in his UFC debut was controlled for 56% of the fight against Robeski. So there is a path to victory for Chase here, as Fiore can be controlled on the mat. Chase has fought the much better level of competition in his career. His wins and losses are better than Nick's. Now, Nick is going to be a better striker here, and that's about it. He's smaller. He's less experienced. He's probably at a grappling deficiency, even though he's a BJJ black belt in his own right under the Renzo Gracie New Hampshire team. So he's a very good grappler too, but we've just seen Chase Hooper grapple at a higher level at this level for longer now. So Nick Fiore's got a lot to prove. And Rumbeski came out there and basically controlled him for 56% of the fight, while Fiore only got 3% control time. And Fiore attempted almost as many takedowns as Rumbeski did. So, even though it was on short notice, even though, he's inexperienced, he's still put up the kind of numbers that would lead you to believe that Chase Hooper's definitely got a path to victory here. But Chase is so bad on the feet, everyone, that if Nick Fiore can just keep this fight standing, he's probably going to be at a huge advantage here, even though I don't think there's a ton of evidence to suggest that Nick Fiore is like this great striker that's going to go in there and pull a Steve Garcia against Chase Hooper. Steve Garcia is a way better striker than Nick Fiore, ladies and gentlemen. So, I think people need to kind of temper their expectations a little bit on Fiore. In summary, I feel as if Chase has the advantages everywhere, but in the striking. He's younger, he's bigger, he's more experienced, he's longer, he's the better grappler just based on what we've seen on tape so far, and he's fought the much better level of competition. His striking, and especially striking defense, is a huge concern, but Chase only spends 46% of his UFC cage time at distance striking range. But for Fiore, it's less than 40%. So it's not like Fiore's this guy that can keep the fight on the feet if he wants it there and not engage in the grappling positions. Fiore's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. He attempted 3 takedowns against Rumbeski. He wants to grapple. And where he wants to take this fight is where Chase Hooper's at his best. So I see this fight being a grappling match, you guys. And if that's the case, I'm going to have to favor Hooper just based on there being more tape on him and him fighting the better level of competition, him being younger, him being longer, him dominating other Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts like Felipe Colares. So I'm going to pick Chase to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by decision here. So I got Chase Hooper, the teenage dream, to win this fight by decision. All right. See what you guys have to say in the chat here. We got Crouching Tiger saying, let's go, Weezy. We got keep up the great work, Unc. I appreciate you hanging out in here, Crouching Tiger. We got Mushroom MMA. What's up, dude? Good to see you hanging out here. Smash the like, says Mushroom, and do it because he told you to. We got UFC Sharpest saying, Weezy, you're my boy, Blue. So far, I have Fluffy and Borshchev, and I'm with you on both of those picks, but we'll get to those shortly, UFC Sharpest. 11:35 Philly time, so I'm going to keep it cranking here, so maybe we can get done before Mushroom has to get to bed here, because unlike your Uncle Weezy, who's a complete and total degenerate, Mushroom actually has a real job, and he's got to get up in the morning to get to that real job. And the UFC Sharpest saying, I want the dog money so bad on Fialho, but I can't get a Buckley fight right to save my life. Yeah, and sometimes when you're not getting those fights right, it's best just to watch them fight a couple of times, take in the information in an unbiased way, because you don't have money on the fight. You can kind of just cap the fight as an interested party who doesn't have money on it, and then maybe you can get a better read on them going forward. So nothing wrong with staying away, waiting, and accumulating more information, UFC Sharpest. All right, but the next fight that we are going to talk about here is going to be Ilir, the Sledgehammer Latifi at plus 169, going up against Rodrigo Yogi Bear Nascimento at minus 194. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 155 for this fight. Oh, boy. Yeah, look at these handsome devils here. We got Rodrigo and Ilir. So let's first start talking about Ilir Latifi here. He's got the experience advantage big time. He's got 14 more professional fights, 160 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 5 more years as a pro fighter. Ilir has the UFC experience advantage with 11 more fights and over 100 more minutes in the octagon. Both Ilir and Rodrigo are good wrestlers who win the majority of their minutes and moments with their grappling. It's Ilir who has the better wrestling, though. He's the top control minute winner guy here. He wins almost 94%. And I forgot to bring the stats up here for you guys. So let's get these up on the screen. And you can see here that Ilir Latifi gets 30.58% control time and only allows 2%. He's got 100% takedown defense on 7 attempts against, and he's out-controlling his opponents at a 15.36 to 1 ratio. That means he's winning almost 94% of the control time positions that he's in while showing that 100% takedown defense. So not only is it very difficult to win minutes against Ilir Latifi with your grappling, he has a very easy time getting the takedowns and winning minutes with his grappling in return. So if there's one guy that I'm going to say is going to be more likely to be successful with the wrestling here, I'm going to have to go with Latifi. And in Ilir's 3 heavyweight fights against Derek Lewis, Tanner Boser, and Alexei Oleinik, he's 2 wins and 1 loss up there. Very close loss against Derek Lewis. He's got 8 takedowns in those 3 fights on 16 attempts, and he's got over 53% control time in those 3 heavyweight fights. So Ilir is doing a hell of a job in the heavyweight division of saying, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to swing with these big boys. I'm just going to wrestle them. I'm going to make them tired. I'm going to lay on top of them. If the ref stands us up, I'm going to take him down again and lay on top of him some more and just win a bunch of minutes, eat up the minutes of the fight, and win a decision. And that's what he's been doing in this weight class. And Ilir has fought and beaten and lost to the better brand of UFC competition in comparison to Rodrigo Nascimento. But Yogi Bear is the natural heavyweight here. He's 10 years younger than Ilir Latifi. That's statistically significant. He's 4 inches taller, and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. So he's been the better finisher as a pro, but in a much smaller sample size. Rodrigo will be the better and busier striker in this matchup. He pressures constantly. He lands 8.03 distance strikes per minute, while Ilir only lands 1.86. So huge volume deficiency between these two guys while the fight's on the feet. So as long as this fight is on the feet, Ilir will have like the proverbial puncher's chance here, but there's no way he wins any minutes at distance striking range, being older, slower, smaller, and at a 7-inch reach disadvantage. Rodrigo's a BJJ black belt. So he's the bigger dude. He's the better submission grappler in this spot. But, you know, everybody, you'll hear it from every capper this week. It's hard to choke a man with no neck. And Ilir was born without a neck. So he's never been submitted in his professional career because it's hard to submit dudes with no necks. So in summary here, Rodrigo has not faced one takedown attempt in his UFC career. And that's 4 fights in almost 30 minutes in the cage. So it's really hard to know what his takedown defense looks like and what his bottom game looks like. I love Rodrigo's size, his striking. He's going to have the speed advantage in this spot. He's much younger. The length is awesome. He should be hard to take down. He's a huge dude who's going to be pushing 260, 265 on fight day. But, you know, even if he is hard to take down, that's got to be Ilir's path to victory here, because he's going to have a hard time closing the distance on Rodrigo. Rodrigo throws a lot more volume. Rodrigo throws straight punches too. He's got good striking for a heavyweight. So Ilir's path to victory, along with maybe landing a big shot on the feet, is going to be grappling. But I wouldn't recommend laying this kind of juice on the Nascimento money line without knowing how he's going to deal with that wrestling of Ilir Latifi here. So I do feel confident saying that there's virtually no chance of Latifi winning this fight without getting takedowns and lots of control time, because Ilir's UFC record in fights where he's either gotten a knockdown or at least 90 seconds, a minute and a half of control time, he's 8 wins and 2 losses in those fights. And one of those losses came against Derek Lewis in a very close fight. So Ilir he's got a fantastic winning percentage when he lands a power shot, when he gets takedowns and gets control time in fights. But, you know, I still think I'm going to pick Nascimento to win this fight by decision, because we haven't seen judges reward grappling like they should. And in this case, Latifi just doesn't do enough that even if he wins 10 minutes on the ground here, if he does nothing, he still might lose a split decision. So the pick, I feel, the responsible pick here is going to be Rodrigo Nascimento to win this fight by decision. But I think Ilir Latifi is live to win this fight by decision. And right now, his decision line, plus 350 on Bet Online, plus 325 over here on BetMGM. You know, it's not the worst look in the world, but you're going to have to count on Ilir to get takedowns in at least 2 of the rounds and not get boxed up too badly from the outside. But yeah, picking Nascimento to win this fight, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. And we got solid advice on Buckley. Yeah, you got it, UFC Sharpest, man. No problem at all. M-Test saying over 2.5 at plus 105 in the Latifi fight. I'm right there with you, M-Test. I bet that at plus 115 earlier in the week. I like the over 2.5 rounds in this fight. And so does the data. Let me show that to you on the prop template, which is also available on your Uncle Weezy's Patreon. If you think analytics are important in finding cheap prices to bet lines at, then this is a great little tool for that. But right now at over 2.5 at plus 100, we see that that's a 42% benchmark. We're paying 50%. But Latifi's fights have went over 2.5 rounds 7 of 15 times, but 3 of 3 times in the heavyweight weight class. And it's 1 of 4 for Nascimento. But Nascimento has been fighting a lot of lower level opposition, and he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus in the first round when he lost. So I think that the stylistic components of this matchup, with Latifi being such a good minute eater with his wrestling, while he really doesn't do much on top, and while he's so low volume on the feet, that this fight probably cruises over 2.5 rounds. I like that one. Iceland saying Nascimento should win this, but he's minus 200. Should have bet him when I saw it at minus 170. I hear you, man. Yeah, it's if you missed the minus 170, I probably wouldn't step up to pay minus 200. Yeah, I like that too. UFC sharp is so much that I bet it myself. And Latifi is so boring. I plan on holding my shit in all day. Yeah, just so I can take a shit break during this fight to go drop a heater. There you go. Hopefully by the time I'm done pitching that loaf, the fight will be over. Yeah, and if you hold it for a very long time, chances are, you might have mud butt. You might have to fucking wipe for a while. But Ilir's probably going to give you a full 15 minutes there. So make sure that you got a full roll of toilet paper in there with your UFC sharpest. Take care of business after taking that rip. And then you can get out for just in time for the Orion Cosce versus Gilbert Urbina fight. Way past my bedtime for J-Bone. I like the over in this as well. I will see you soon, J-Bone. Thank you for hanging out with us here. And Mushroom is saying what's up to J-Bone as well. So the next fight is going to be Orion Cosce against Gilbert Urbina. Very closely lined fight right now. Cosce was a bigger favorite earlier in the week, but now he's minus 115. Urbina minus 105. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at minus 160 here. Let's bring these stats up on the screen for you guys. And there we go. Let me, guys, if you don't have a beverage, go pour yourself one. We got a lot of fights to talk here. So let's sit down, strap it down, get comfortable, get a cold beverage. It's Wednesday night. We've earned it. All right. Orion Cosce versus Gilbert Urbina. Now, let's first start talking about Orion Galaxy Cosce. As he's got a very slight UFC experience advantage. He's got one more fight, 17 more minutes in the octagon in comparison to Gilbert Urbina. He's got the better finish rate as a pro, does Orion, 87.5% finish rate compared to 50% for his opponent Urbina. Orion does a solid job of winning minutes with his wrestling and clinch control. In his almost 25 minutes of UFC cage time, he's got 5 takedowns, and he gets almost 66% control time while yielding only 5.5%. So he's using that wrestling to win over 92% of the control time possessions that he's been in, as we can see with that number right there, out-controlling his opponents at exactly a 12-to-1 ratio. And he's in these positions over 71% of the time, as Orion Cosce's fights only take place at distance striking range 29% of his UFC cage time. So Orion wins minutes in the grappling exchanges. He wants to wrestle. He wants to get you in the clinch. He wants to get on top of you. And his fights, they go that way. So Orion doesn't seem to be in denial about who he is as a fighter and where he does his best work. So that's a good quality to have. We don't know as much about Gilbert Urbina here, but we do know a couple things. He's the much bigger dude, as he fought at middleweight when he was in the Tough House. He's almost 2 years younger than Orion. He's 4 inches taller and has a 4-inch reach advantage. Really nice measurables for Gilbert Urbina in this spot. Even though both Gilbert and Orion's UFC striking metrics are complete ass, as we can see here, Urbina is landing 4.66 distance strikes per minute spent at distance and absorbing 9.33. And for Orion, it's 3.42 landed and 9.55 absorbed. But it's important to note that Cosce's only spent 7 minutes at distance striking range, and for Gilbert, it's only 3. So there's small sample sizes. Hopefully those numbers will get better for these guys, and those numbers will start to get more towards the middle because they're terrible as of right now. And both guys are throwing a lot less volume than their opponents are as well. So Gilbert has definitely fought the better brand of competition as a professional in comparison to Orion Cosce. And he's shown solid wrestling and grappling in the Tough House and on the regional scene. But I'm not sure if he's as proficient as a minute winner there as we've seen Orion Cosce be throughout his entire career. But we're going to find out for sure on Saturday. So in summary, it's an interesting matchup. I don't think either of these guys has a massive advantage anywhere the fight goes. But I do lean towards Gilbert's size, youth, and better striking here. I think the grappling exchanges are going to be close, but Gilbert has faced better grapplers than Cosce has. and he's performed admirably against them. This guy went to a 3-round decision with Sean Brady. I think Gil's got the higher ceiling. He's got the better pedigree. He's got the much more beautiful head of hair here. So I'm going to pick him to win this fight. We will say Gilbert Urbina wins this one by decision. Orion versus Gilbert. Hopefully Gilbert still comes in with that badass mullet that he's got. He's got great hair, much bigger, younger. Orion's rumored to have like a shoulder injury. He's been dealing with some health problems. So we'll see if Gilbert Urbina can get that first UFC dub for the Urbina family. That would be pretty cool to see. All right. See what you guys are saying in the chat here. Nascimento by second round sub is plus 1,800. That's not bad, man. I think that Nascimento could get a sub here, but Ilir's never been subbed. I think he might be a little more likely to get a knockout than he is a sub. UFC Sharp is saying, haha, you're cracking me up, Weezy. I love making you guys laugh. Victor saying, Weezy, I'm busy at work. They usually don't like it when I drink beer or 2 shots while working. You gotta let me have a talk with your boss, Vic. This is bullshit. What kind of people are these, man? Giallo is saying my Polish girlfriend might kill me for betting against Kowalkiewicz, but Little Monster by sub. Let's go. Nice, man. J-Bone saying, what's up, my guy at Mushroom MMA? Let's cash some tickets this week. And Zero Miedo saying, I love Urbina as a dog play. Yeah, you could have got him at better money earlier in the week, and hopefully you did, my man. But if you didn't, it's still right around to pick him. And if your read is that he's got a clean path to victory here, it's still not a bad number where it's at. But the next fight that we're going to talk about is going to be the aforementioned Karolina Kowalkiewicz at minus 130, going up against my favorite Greek girl, Vanessa Demopoulos, at plus 110. The fight doesn't go to decision, plus money at plus 195 for this fight. So bring up the stats here for you guys. And let's first start talking about Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She's the bigger lady here. She's got a 1-inch height and a 5-inch reach advantage. She's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 8 more fights, 85 more minutes in the pro cage, and 5.5 more years as a professional fighter. She'll be the superior striker here. She's got a 5-inch reach advantage over Vanessa Demopoulos, and her superior output and much better distance striking defense, as Karolina Kowalkiewicz has a 62% distance striking defense compared to 46% for Vanessa Demopoulos. Karolina has fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of UFC competition over her UFC career. For Little Monster Demopoulos, she's 3 years younger than Karolina. She's the better finisher as a pro. She will definitely have more power while this fight is on the feet. Vanessa's the superior submission grappler in this spot. She averages 0.95 takedowns per 15 and 0.63 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And she does have 1 UFC win via submission over Silvana Gomez Juarez. So in summary, I see this as being a striker versus grappler matchup. While it's on the feet, Karolina is going to be busier. She's going to be more defensively responsible and the better minute winner. Vanessa needs to get this fight to the ground where she can work her submission game and where we've seen Karolina Kowalkiewicz be subbed twice in her 7 UFC losses. So that's where Vanessa has her best shot outside of landing a big shot. And that's certainly possible, as Vanessa definitely throws with power. She's very strong. When she throws with purpose. She's looking to take your head off, which there's nothing wrong with that when you're a grappler, because it can force grappling exchanges by just making the opponent uncomfortable with the amount of heat that's coming their way. Vanessa's 3 UFC wins are over ladies with a combined 4-win and 9-loss UFC record. So this is definitely going to be a step up in competition for her. If I could count on Vanessa to get takedowns, I would be confident that she could pull this off. But Karolina's got 75% takedown defense. Vanessa's only gotten 3 of her 16 UFC takedown attempts. So I think Karolina keeps this fight standing, and I think that she wins a decision. So I'm going to pick against my favorite Greek girl here, Vanessa Demopoulos, pick Karolina Kowalkiewicz to win this by decision. But I'm thinking about betting Vanessa Demopoulos to win in round 1. If we go to the advanced stats here, and we look at Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and we highlight her losses, right? When you look at the losses that are inside the distance, how do they happen? First round submission to Gedalia, first round knockout to Andrade, first round submission to Jessica Penne. So every time that Karolina Kowalkiewicz has lost inside the distance, it's been in round one. And then if we look at Vanessa Little Monster Demopoulos, 5 inside the distance wins for Vanessa in her career. 4 of them come in round one. So I kind of feel like Vanessa's best win condition is first round knockout, big shot on the feet, or first round submission. So first round for Vanessa Demopoulos to win in round one is plus 850 on Unibet. So I kind of feel like that's a decent way to play this spot. Karolina Kowalkiewicz by decision right now is, and I also like the Vanessa Demopoulos finish only prop. Vanessa is nearly impossible to finish. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, not a finisher at all. So I kind of feel like very little downside, even at a juiced price of minus 190 on DraftKings. Nobody's finishing the Spartan Little Monster Demopoulos. So Demopoulos finish only prop, Demopoulos round one, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz to win by decision are all bets that I think are good bets for this fight. What is Kowalkiewicz by decision? Plus 110 is the best that we can find it right now. So I think that's an interesting way to look at it, because if she keeps this fight at distance striking range, Vanessa at that huge reach disadvantage, low volume striker, counting on landing a big shot, she probably loses the minutes. So Karolina Kowalkiewicz by decision, we got that in there. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Daz File saying what's up to Mushroom. We got Your Mad saying got to go with Vanessa. KK arguably lost her last fight, if I remember correctly, against Juarez. Very close fight. Absolutely, very close fight. Could have went either way. And there was a lot of controversy with that fight, You're Mad, because the judges came in and changed the scorecard before Buffer read it. So it was a weird one, man. Very, very weird, very strange ending to that fight. And Daz File saying, come on, Vanessa, I need the new cutlery. Let's go. There we go. All right, you guys, let's get on to this next fight, which is going to be Maheshate at plus 135 going up against Slava Claus, Viecheslav Borshchev at minus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 175 for this fight. Wrong one. That's the one that we're looking for there. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So let's first start talking about Maheshate here. He's 8 years younger than Slava. He's only 23 years old, 6 feet for the lightweight division. So he's a huge lightweight. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. So I love the measurables for Maheshate in this fight. He's got actually a slight pro experience advantage over Slava, as he's got 2 more professional fights and 30 more minutes in the pro cage. And that's about where it ends here. Neither one of these guys has much in the way of advantages over the other. Slava has got a slight UFC experience advantage. He's got 1 more professional or 1 more UFC fight, 17 more minutes in the UFC cage. He's going to be the better striker here, though, as this is a striker versus striker matchup. Slava's got a positive 3.32 distance strike differential compared to negative 0.22 for Maheshate, and his accuracy is just much better. 52% distance striking accuracy for Viecheslav Borshchev, while Maheshate couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Look at that, 20.27% distance striking accuracy in 9.48 minutes. So he's got to get more accurate. And that's going to be a problem against a guy like Borshchev, who's got good distance striking defense here at 64%. So, just a very interesting stylistic matchup here, because we've seen Borshchev have to defend 32 takedowns in 33 minutes of UFC cage time. He's been taken down 22 times, 31% takedown defense, allowing 9.77 takedowns per 15 minutes. And Maheshate, not much better with 5.55 takedowns allowed per 15 minutes. So both of these guys are losing a ton of minutes in the grappling. But the beautiful thing about this matchup is in 33 minutes in the UFC cage, Borshchev has attempted exactly 0 takedowns. Maheshate has attempted exactly 0 takedowns. So this is an easy one. You know, this is going to take place on the feet. I think that if you're looking for a fight doesn't go to decision, maybe see if you can get a better price for fight ends by KO, because I think that that's the most likely way that this fight ends is by KO. Both of these guys have got a ton of power on the feet. Maheshate's got really good elbows, a piston-like straight right hand, and he's also got great jump knees. And then Viecheslav Borshchev's got spinning shit, fast fucking hands, throwing in combination, lots of leg kicks. He just mixes up his targets. He's very technically sound, and he's got a lot of power. So this is going to be a very dynamic striker versus striker matchup. Both of these guys have fought a solid level of competition with winning records thus far in over 6 fights apiece. So yeah, good levels of competition here. The win for Maheshate a little bit better over a guy like Garcia than what we would look over a guy like Dakota Bush here. So in summary, it's a striker versus striker matchup that's going to be super fun. This is a good shot to be a fight of the night here. I like Maheshate's youth, his length, his jump knees, and that potential Greco-Roman wrestling background that these Chinese dudes have is very exciting against a guy like Borshchev, who's allowed 22 takedowns. But, you know, I don't think we're going to see Maheshate wrestle here. Slava does seem to be the crisper striker, faster hands, and much more accuracy. I've never seen Maheshate wrestle, and if he doesn't wrestle here, he gives Slava the fight he wants, and then if that's the fight that happens, I got to side with Slava to win this fight. It should be a barn burner, and I'm hoping to see that badass Russian kick dance after this fight, but I am going to pick Viecheslav Borshchev to win this fight by a second-round knockout. Maheshate's got a chin on him, though, so I think he might actually have to get him to the body in order to drop him, and then maybe he can finish it with some ground and pound here. But yeah, picking Viecheslav Borshchev to win this one by second-round knockout in this one. All right. Let's see you guys in the chat here. MMA Jesus hanging out with us. What's up, dude? Daz Files saying a banger here. Maheshate, another great dog. Yeah, man, 8 years younger. Kid's only 23 years old. Maheshate round 1, says my guy MMA Jesus. Lay and pray it, Dev. Yeah. Let's go. He's hitting that hammer. Dogs this card. There's a lot of good dogs this card. I got some plus money bets myself, man. All right. Next fight that we're going to talk about, though, is going to be Diego Ferreira going up against Michael Johnson. Ferreira is the minus 163 favorite. Johnson plus 143 on the comeback. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 175 here. All right. There we go. Got those stats up. Going to get another sip of the beverage here. All right. Let's keep going. Let's first start talking about CDF here, Carlos Diego Ferreira. 1-inch reach advantage for Carlos. He's been the more potent finisher in the UFC. 62.5% finish rate, 3 knockouts and 2 submissions in his 8 UFC wins. Both of these guys are very good strikers, but Ferreira lands more. He lands 5.56 at distance, while Johnson lands a little bit less than that at 5.3. And he throws more, too. He's attempting 17 distance strike attempts per minute spent at distance, while it's about 14 for Johnson. And CDF loves to pressure. He really walks down his opponent. So that can be very difficult to deal with, especially when you're a technical striker that kind of needs to plant your feet and maintain distance in order to be effective. CDF will be the superior submission grappler here for sure. He's a 3rd-degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He grappled with the best in the division. So in terms of pure grappling ability, Michael Johnson's a big step down from the level of competition that CDF has been facing lately, with guys like Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, Mateus Gamrot. I mean, an absolute murderer's row of grapplers there. And now he gets Michael Johnson. So we might see Carlos go to the grappling a lot more than we're used to seeing him go to it, because this is such a huge step down in terms of the grappling ability of his opponent in this fight. So in CDF fighting a much higher level of competition in recent fights, as we can see here. Michael Johnson, Thiago Moises, the best opponent, and then it's Guida, Patrick, Malaki, Diakese, while you see CDF fighting Maribek Taisumov on Fight Island, and then Anthony Pettis, Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, Mateus Gamrot. I mean, the average record of a Carlos Diego Ferreira opponent is 8.7 wins and 4 losses. And the average guy that beats him has 13 UFC wins and only 3.4 losses. So Carlos Diego Ferreira is only losing to the best of the best UFC competition. Michael Johnson now, he's 1.5 years younger than CDF. He's 1 inch taller. He's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 17 more pro fights, 190 more minutes in the pro cage, and over 3 more years as a professional fighter. Since 2013 in the UFC, Michael has been much busier with 7 more fights, twice as much octagon time as Carlos Diego Ferreira. And Michael's a solid minute winner at distance striking range. He's got a positive 1.32 distance striking differential, a positive 3.52 distance strike attempt differential, and he's got 62.4% distance striking defense. He's landed 7 UFC knockdowns and only absorbed 1 in over 1,000 significant strikes absorbed. So very impressive chin for Michael Johnson, and a good power ratio there. And he's also fought a very good level of competition. He's got wins over guys like Dustin Poirier and Tony Ferguson, but his recent form has been against more mid-level guys. So in summary, both of these guys are on the wrong end of 35 years old. But MJ definitely has a lot more tread on the tires. As we can see, Carlos Diego Ferreira has been fighting for 12 years, but he's only got 22 fights. So he hasn't been nearly as active as Johnson, 15 years, almost 40 professional fights, and 20 fights since the year 2013 for Michael Johnson at the UFC level. So I think this is going to be close on the feet. Both guys stay very busy. They both land more than they absorb, but it's MJ who's shown more moment-winning ability on the feet. But I also really like Carlos Diego Ferreira's pressure. Where I don't see this fight being particularly close is in the grappling. If CDF goes to his wrestling and grappling, I think he can win minutes and potentially get a submission. CDF has fought the much better level of competition recently, and he's faced that murderer's row of grapplers that we already talked about. So this is probably a big step down in competition for CDF. He's had some time off after the Mateus Gamrot loss to heal that rib injury. So I'm picking him to win this fight by decision. I also bet the over 2.5 rounds in this fight at plus 120. And the reason I did that at plus 120 was a 45% implied probability, but it gives us a trifecta bet, which means it's a very cheap price. So we're paying 0.45, 0.45, but 53.5% of fights in the lightweight division go over 2.5 rounds. So that's an 8% pricing advantage to us. And then if we look in a 31 fight sample size between Ferreira and Johnson at the UFC level since 2013, 18 of those 31 fights have went over 2.5 rounds. That's 58.06% combined, while we're only paying 45%. And we also see that these guys are going over 2.5 rounds in a big sample size at a bigger rate than what the division does. So we shouldn't be getting a discount there, and a discount there, but we are. So it shows that these non-violence lines are underpriced. We're getting a deal there. Stylistically, yeah, we could potentially see Michael Johnson get a knockout. We could see Ferreira get a knockout. We could see Ferreira get a decision. But Michael Johnson's fights have never finished in round one since 2013. 18 fights scheduled for 3 rounds, and not one of them finished in round one. So I definitely like the over 2.5 here at plus money. It's way underpriced, and I think it's a safe bet. Let's see here. So let's go to the Tapology, and we're going to pick CDF to win this fight by decision. I think he's got way more paths. I think his pressure is going to be a serious problem for Michael Johnson. So I'm pretty confident about this Carlos Diego Ferreira pick. All right. All right. Let's see what you guys are up to in the chat here. Maheshate by his Greco-Roman ways. That's right. That Chinese Greco-Roman wrestling, the top of the heap. MMA Jesus saying another dog. MJ, got it. You're mad saying I like Shate a lot. I just think Slava's striking experience will pay off. I agree with you there. Daz Files saying on Johnson, but see Diego win if he gets it to the mat. Yeah, definitely if he gets it to the mat. It's going to be a big advantage here. It's time for the Percolator. My God, that is a classic Chicago house track by Green Velvet right there, otherwise known as, what was his name? What was Green Velvet's name? I'd have to ask my girlfriend. She would know. But yeah, time for the Percolator, classic house track. MMA Jesus saying the ring rust is the deal breaker for me. Yeah, it could be, but they're both old. MJ via KO. MJ's got some serious power in his hands. So, yeah, that is definitely one of the possible outcomes for this fight is a Michael Johnson knockout. All right. Next fight that we're going to talk about is going to be Andre Fialho at plus 180 going up against Joaquin Buckley, making his first cut down to 170 pounds in a very long time at minus 210. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 290 for this fight. So let's get these numbers up here for you guys, and we'll first start talking about my guy Andre Fialho. The advantages for Fialho is he's been the better finisher as a pro. 87.5% finish rate, 13 knockouts, and 1 submission. And he's finished both of his UFC wins. According to my metric, Fialho has faced the better level of UFC competition overall, as he's got a 1.73 win-loss ratio, 26-15 combined record of his opponents, while for Buckley, it's a lot closer to 500 at 36-33, and less experienced guys that he's fighting. The wins are pretty close, but Joaquin Buckley's are actually a little bit better than Fialho's. Buckley has got the 2-inch reach advantage here. That's significant. He's a southpaw. You like that. He's got the much better distance striking numbers in this spot, as he's got a positive 0.69 distance striking differential, while for Andre Fialho, it's negative 3.05. And we got a positive 5.46 distance strike attempt differential on the feet for Joaquin Buckley, while it's negative 3.36 for Andre Fialho. 58% distance striking defense for Buckley, 48% distance striking defense for Fialho. So even though Buckley's a little less accurate, he makes up for that with the amount of volume that he throws in comparison to Fialho. So both guys have got massive power, but I think it's safe to say that Buckley is going to be the better minute winner at range. He throws more. He lands more. He's got much better defense. And what I also like here is that Buckley is the one that's going to mix in the wrestling here. Andre Fialho's got no takedown attempts in 5 UFC fights. It's just not what he does. He kind of tries to manage range and land big shots with his hands. That's really about it when it comes to his game. He's going to try to land one power shot. He's going to try to keep the fight on the feet. And he's going to be in, out, and he tries to catch you coming in while he's coming in. And if he can land that big shot while you're coming in, it's going to be nighty-night. But outside of that happening, Fialho is 0-1 in the UFC in his decisions, and he's 2-2 overall. But Buckley has been a better minute winner in his career, having a 4-2 record in decisions. So I like the fact that Buckley's got more ways to win this fight, because he's attempted 23 takedowns, gotten 7 of them, and is in control time positions about 20% of his fights, while Fialho is, only 2.87% control time. He allows 9.46, and he's only winning on 23% of the control time positions that he's in, while Buckley gets a little bit better at 42%. So yeah, I like Buckley's minute winning wherever this fight goes. So I think one solid line here for this fight is the decision only prop for Joaquin Buckley, because Buckley's lost 3 of his 5 fights in his career by knockout. He is kind of chinny, and it's not going to help him cutting down to 170 his durability. So against a guy like Fialho, I think Fialho's best win condition is landing that big shot. But if Fialho doesn't land the big shot, I think it's very likely that Joaquin Buckley wins the minutes should this fight go to decision. I think it probably goes to decision maybe 3 out of 10 times, maybe only 2. But if it does go to decision, I think that there's a very high probability that Joaquin Buckley is the one getting his hand raised. He's got the better conditioning, and he's got the better volume. He's got the better distance striking defense. He's got the better distance striking differential. So I think that Buckley, and he would be the one that would be more likely to win minutes with the grappling exchanges as well. So minus 200 for the decision only prop on Joaquin Buckley, I think is a cheeky look this week. But while this fight is on the feet, both guys have serious power, but it's going to be Joaquin who's throwing and landing more, while Fialho will be looking mostly to land one big shot while moving in and out of range. Buckley might mix in the wrestling here to keep Andre guessing. And since we haven't seen Fialho show the best cardio in the past, that might be a good idea for Joaquin to go that route. He's making his welterweight debut, so seeing him on the scale in this fight is going to be important. If you're on that Buckley side, man, I would really wait to see him on the scale and make sure that that weight cut went well for him before laying this kind of juice against a guy with this kind of power. I think Joaquin has more paths to win this fight, so I'm going to be picking him to win, but I wouldn't lay minus 200 on his money line. I'm confident about the under 2.5 in this spot, because that way I don't have to pick which guy lands the big shot, only that it lands. And if I show you the prop template for this fight, Fialho Buckley, minus 190 for the under 2.5. We're overpaying by 20% when we compare that 65% to the only 45% benchmark for under 2.5 rounds here. But we've got a 14 fight sample size in the UFC for Fialho and Buckley, and 78.57%, 13% more than the cost of the line at 65.52% is how many of these guys' fights are finishing under 2.5 rounds. And these guys are going under 2.5 rounds at a 33.4% rate, better than what the division does. So these are the archetype of fighters that you look to bet violence on. And these guys both lose a lot of fights inside the distance as well. As we can see, Joaquin Buckley has been finished in 4 of 6 losses, and Fialho has been finished in 4 of 6 losses. So 2/3 of these guys combined 12 pro losses, 8 of them have been inside the distance. So love the under 2.5 in this spot, and I parlayed it with the under 2.5 rounds in the curtain jerker, Gorimbo versus Sato, to get plus 145 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So yeah, I like that under 2.5 because that way I don't have to pick who wins this fight. I'll pick Buckley to win the fight by second round knockout because I think he's got more paths to win this fight. But I think that the real pick here is the minus 190 for the under 2.5 rounds. I think it's a great parlayable violence line this week. So we're going to pick Joaquin Buckley to win his welterweight debut in the UFC by second round knockout over Andre Fialho. But I think that Fialho is absolutely live to land a big shot here, especially in round 1 or 2. Okay. Let's go to see if anything is going on here in the chat. My camera was unplugged. Just give me a minute there, you guys. MMA Jesus thinking Andre catches him. It's absolutely a possibility. Cuban Assassin saying Percolator is Curtis Allen Jones. My man Cuban Assassin checking in here. Yeah, that is Green Velvet is the stage name, but Curtis Allen Jones. Love it, man. And we've got Cashmere. But that wasn't Kashmir, was it? I thought that was maybe I'm wrong about that. But Kashmir is another classic, dude. And then not touchy-feely, Fialho inside the distance. Yeah, man. All right, let me see here. Let me get my camera to pop back in here for you guys. There we go. Start cam. All right, there we go. Now you guys see me. Fucking great card. Weezy says Jesus, and then the camera goes off again. What the hell? All right, you're going to have to deal with this camera for a minute here, and then we're going to get on to this next fight, which is going to be, man, that camera's having all kinds of problems. Okay, so let's just, all right, let's go to this next fight. My guy Zero Mieto is going Fialho by KO here. So Emily Ducote at plus 133 going up against Loopy Godinez at minus 153 is the next fight. Get those stats up for you guys. And let's first start talking about Emily Ducote here. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage over Loopy. She's got the overall experience advantage with 7 more fights, 90 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 3 more years as a professional fighter. Em is the better finisher as a pro. She's got a 58.33% career finish rate, while Loopy's career finish rate is 22%. Emily likes to keep fights standing, and her fights have taken place at distance striking range 100% of her 30 minutes in the octagon. So if you're on the Ducote side, that's a stat you love to see, because I kind of feel like Loopy needs to wrestle in order to win this fight, while Ducote will be doing her best work at distance striking range. Loopy Godinez has the UFC experience advantage. She's got 5 more fights. She's got 65 more minutes in the octagon. She's going to be the better wrestler here, as we've seen Loopy average 3.82 takedowns per 15 minutes, while accumulating 38.74% control time against her opponents, while Ducote is showing 100% takedown defense, but she hasn't faced any fighters who can wrestle at all thus far in the UFC. So I think we can expect to see her takedown defense tested for real this time around. Loopy has fought and beaten the better level of UFC competition thus far in comparison to Ducote. So in summary, Loopy's taking this fight on short notice. So I'd be more confident in her if I could count on her to wrestle for 3 rounds here. But taking the fight on 1 week's notice while she was on vacation could compromise her ability to push a wrestling heavy game plan in this spot. If she doesn't do that, if she doesn't wrestle, I have to favor Ducote on the feet with her experience, her 2-inch reach advantage. But I'm not touching this fight with a 10-foot pole, and I'm not confident about the pick here, but I'm going to go Emily Ducote to win this fight by decision. So we're going to go Emily Ducote here by decision. I don't like the short notice for Loopy. I don't like the fact that we've needed to see her wrestle in the past, and she hasn't done it in spots where she should have. And I feel like she should probably wrestle here against Ducote, because Loopy's boxing is solid. It's good enough, but I think Ducote's is a little bit better. I think she's a little more tested against quality strikers in Bellator. So I'm looking for Ducote to stop the takedowns. She's shown 100% takedown defense thus far, but it's going to be tested this time by Godinez. But like I said, I'd be more nervous about Godinez's wrestling if she had a full camp, but she doesn't. And you really need to be in top physical condition to be able to push a wrestling heavy game plan for the full 15 minutes. So I feel like the safe pick here is Emily Ducote. I'm going to pick her to win by decision, because neither one of these ladies really ever gets finished. So fight goes to decision. Probably a pretty good parlay piece for this fight as well. All right. The next fight, absolute barn burner. This isn't a great card, but this is a great fight. Edmund Shabazian, the Golden Boy, plus 166, going up against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez at minus 191 right now on BetOnline. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 270 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys here. There we go. Let me get another sip of my beverage. And let's get back to work. All right. Let's first start talking about the Golden Boy, Edmund Shabazian. 4 years younger than Anthony. 2 inches taller than Antony. Edmund's got a very slight experience advantage, mostly at the UFC level, where he has 2 more fights and 14 more minutes in the octagon. Edmund should be the more dangerous striker while this fight is on the feet. He has 3 UFC knockdowns, and he's landing a knockdown on 2.16% of the distance strikes that he lands. And he has 3 UFC wins by knockout. He's not as high volume as Antony, but he has the power advantage here. He's got the distance striking differential advantage at positive 0.4 compared to negative 1.14 for Anthony Hernandez. And he's fought the more experienced UFC competition thus far. As we can see, Edmund Shabazian's opponents have an average of 12 UFC fights, while Anthony's opponents have an average of 8.5 UFC fights. Now, for Antony, though, his cardio and durability are both absolutely legendary. So that makes him a very difficult opponent for anyone to handle. He throws 16 distance strike attempts per minute. He lands 6.58 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he spends 72% of his UFC cage time in control time positions, and he's winning 72% of that 72%. He's going to be the better wrestler here. He's going to be the better submission grappler here, and he goes to both constantly, and he has the cardio to push that grappling heavy pace for the full 15 minutes. Antony has the better UFC wins in comparison to Edmund Shabazian, according to my metric here. And we can see with Hernandez's 1.36 ratio compared to 0.89 for Shabazian. So that means that the average win-loss record for Shabazian, guy's got more losses than wins. 5 wins, 5.6 losses. Well, Hernandez is beating guys with winning records, 3.75 wins, 2.75 losses. So, in summary, this is an awfully tough matchup for Edmund Shabazian. We've seen Edmund do his worst work when his opponents wrestle successfully. And we've also seen him wilt late in fights. And if you do that, that is a nightmare against a guy like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. The 2 times Hernandez was finished in the UFC, it was due to body shots. But he's got an absolute brick for a head. You're not knocking this guy out to the head. Edmund's going to have to work that body if he wants to hurt Hernandez. So that's definitely possible, though, for Edmund, because he's a great boxer and he does great body work. The longer this fight goes, the better chance Antony has due to the pace that he pushes, especially with the wrestling and the grappling. I'm picking Hernandez to get the win here. I love his conditioning. I love his durability. I love his pace. I love his grappling. And I think he does his best work where we've seen Edmund get served. And Edmund is still only 25 years old, though. He's finally at a real camp with a real coach, as he's over at Extreme Couture now under Eric Nixick. He's been working on his wrestling and conditioning, so I think we're going to see a much improved version of Edmund here. That being said, I still think that Hernandez drowns this kid. I'm picking Anthony Hernandez to win this one by 3rd round submission. There are very few guys in any division in this promotion that have the kind of cardio and heart to last with a guy like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And Edmund Shabazian has not shown that yet. Now, Edmund's still young. Edmund is finally at a better camp. Edmund is improving. He's rounding out his mixed martial arts game. Still only 25 years old, so he is going to be getting better, everybody. 25 years old still. So there's still massive improvement possibilities here for Shabazian. But we know what Anthony Hernandez is at this point. He's basically kind of like a finished product. He's a great grappler. He's got great pace, great pressure. And he's just a nightmare to deal with. If you can't stop takedowns, if you can't go a full 15 minutes pushing a grappling heavy pace, this guy is going to be an absolute nightmare of an opponent. And since I haven't seen Shabazian do that successfully at the UFC level, there's no way that I can assume that he can do it against a guy like Anthony Hernandez. So I have to pick Anthony Hernandez. This is going to be a dick saw that Shabazian is going to get run into, an absolute nightmare of an opponent here. I'm surprised he took this fight because he's got a new management. He's with Ali Abdelaziz. Ali knows what he's doing, but taking this Anthony Hernandez fight is a bad decision for Edmen Shahbazyan, and I think it's going to be a really difficult night for him. And then that brings us to the main event, you guys. We got 42 of you live hanging out here on a Wednesday night for Just the Tip instead of Tuesday night. Hit that thumbs up for me if you could. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below and join the Patreon if you want to do a little bit of extra support here for your Uncle Weezy by supporting the statistical work here that I provide for the community. And that brings us to our main event. Mackenzie Dern, minus 171, going up against Angela Overkill Hill at plus 146. Fight doesn't go to decision right now, sitting at minus 105. So let's get these stats up here for you guys. And we're going to first start talking about Mackenzie Dern. She's 8 years younger. She's 1 inch taller. And she's going to be the much better grappler here. She's the better finisher because she can finish fights whenever she gets fights to the ground. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu prodigy, came out of the womb wearing a gi. And I think she was already a blue belt. So this young lady has been grappling forever. It is her path to victory. Her striking is trash. Her takedowns are trash. Her cardio is just okay. Her durability is good. Her pressure is starting to get a lot better. And pressure is going to be such an important part of her putting it all together and getting better, getting more wins, climbing that ladder. I think the key to all of that for Mackenzie Dern is going to be the pressure. But Mackenzie Dern is the kind of person that only needs one takedown, that only needs 30 seconds, that only needs one small mistake from her opponent to win that moment in the grappling exchanges, tie you up like a pretzel and submit you. So that is always the most difficult thing that you have to deal with Mackenzie Dern. But the problem is only 5 takedowns on 44 attempts, only 11% accuracy. She gets less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. So, and even though she's got 5 takedowns and she's got 4 submissions, she's counted on her opponents to make mistakes to get those submissions. She's gotten takedowns that didn't get her submissions. We just saw Angela Hill fight Virna Jandiroba 3 fights ago. She lost that fight by unanimous decision. Let's bring up the stats for that fight here because Virna got 3 takedowns and 7 minutes of control time. But even Angela got a takedown and 2 minutes of control time in this fight. She outstruck her 19-13 at distance. Angela Hill's going to be the better striker in this fight. She's going to throw more volume. She's going to be the crisper striker. She's going to offer more weapons, and she's going to have more power. She just needs to keep the fight standing. And this is a 25-minute fight. So I think that is a big deal here because if you only have to stop Mackenzie's takedowns for 3 rounds, it makes it a little bit easier. If you only have to stay off your back for 3 rounds, if you only have to, it's just less time for Mackenzie to find that one dominant position where she can definitely sub you. Angela Hill landing almost 6 distance strikes per minute while absorbing the same, while throwing less volume, but really good 65% striking defense, solid 44% distance striking accuracy, a little bit of power, a ton of durability. Nobody's ever knocked out Angela Hill in her 27-fight professional career, and in her 12 losses, she's only been submitted twice. That's the only times that she's ever been finished. So we do have to watch out. Mackenzie Dern by submission is probably her only win condition, unless she gets takedowns in 3 out of 5 rounds and decisively wins those rounds with ground control. I just don't see her winning minutes on the feet against Angela Hill. I mean, even against Emily Ducote, who's a really good striker, we saw Hill just put on a clinic against her, picked her apart, landing 2-3 strikes for every one that Ducote landed, and just really kind of made her look silly. And Angela Hill, if you don't offer that grappling threat, if you can't take her down, she's going to be comfortable, and she's got 22 UFC fights. She's literally been in there with everybody. So, there's nothing that Dern can bring that Angela Hill hasn't already seen from other opponents. I mean, Tisha Torres, Virna Jandiroba, the wrestling of Loopy Godinez, the power of Amanda Lemos. That's just recently. So because I can't count on Dern to get ground control time, because Virna Jandiroba couldn't submit Angela Hill, so I don't think that there's much of a chance that Mackenzie Dern's going to do that. I have to pick Angela Hill to win this fight by decision, everybody. And that brings us to the last fight of the night. Angela Hill to win by decision. So Hill by decision. Anthony Hernandez, 3rd round submission. Ducote by decision. Buckley by 2nd round knockout. Carlos Diego Ferreira by decision. Viecheslav Borshchev by 2nd round knockout. Karolina Kowalkiewicz by decision. Gilbert Urbina by decision. Rodrigo Nascimento by decision. Chase the Teenage Dream Hooper by decision. Natalia Silva by 3rd round knockout. Themba Gorimbo by 2nd round submission. Those are all the picks for this week. We're going to save them. You can follow me at Vic Vinegar on Tapology. And let me get you my tracked bets for this card. So, like I said, we made 2.05 units the last card. Let's make another 2 this one, huh? We got a 1-unit money line bet on the Chase Hooper money line at plus 120 versus Nick Fiore. We've got a 1-unit bet on the over 2.5 rounds for Johnson versus Ferreira at plus 120. We've got 1 unit on the over 2.5 rounds for Latifi versus Nascimento at plus 110. And then we've got 1 unit on a 2-leg parlay. It's violence under 2.5 rounds for Sato versus Gorimbo at minus 165. Under 2.5 rounds on Fialho versus Buckley at minus 190. That comes out to plus 145 for 1 unit. So plus 145, plus 110, plus 120, and plus 120. I caught 3 mistake lines on Bet Online. Bet them for 1/10 of a unit. Plus 4,000 for Maheshate, 1st round knockout. Plus 4,500. 2nd round, plus 5,500 3rd round, but Bet Online, even though they posted those lines, they just voided all those bets with no explanation. They're fuck up, but they decided not to honor them. So that showed very little integrity by Bet Online, but their props are ass, so I wouldn't expect them to show any integrity. So we've got only 4 units on this card. Those are the tracked bets thus far. Please, you guys in the chat, let me know who you think Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week should be, because it's about that time, you guys. We got to figure out which one of these guys is going to shave their opponent's ass on Saturday, leaving a bunch of ass hair in the cage that has to be swept up before the next fight starts. There are some spots that I like. I'm always a big Fluffy Hernandez fan. I think that, if Buckley wins, he's going to win violently. I think if Fialho wins, he's going to win violently. I think Carlos Diego Ferreira could look really good against Michael Johnson here. I think Borshchev could put on a clinic versus Maheshate potentially. I think he's the much better, more accurate striker. Faster guy, too. But what are you guys in the chat saying here? We've got Ed the Talking Horse Round 1 says Daz Files. We got Victor saying my only action on this card so far is a small play on Fluffy round 2 sub, another play on Fluffy round 3 sub. Looking to have a stab at Edmund round 1 KO to hedge. I like that. Round is plus 750. Thought that kind of generous. All right, there we go. Have to love Fluffy for sure. 5 takedowns on 44 attempts. Yeah, Charles Barkley. This is something that Charles Barkley would call terrible takedown accuracy for our gal, Mackenzie Dern. Zero saying Hill is great for cash. Agreed. She's in my cash lineup. Thanks, Weezy in chat says Daz Files. Charles Barkley says Gilbert Urbina kind of sucks. We're going to find out on Saturday because he's fighting a fairly low-level opponent here in Orion Cosce, but we'll see how that fight goes. Great show, says M-Tess. Appreciate you, brother. I know Cosce does too, but I think he's better than Gilbert. He might be. Other than the obvious Silva, it will be Hernandez, says my guy Victor De Jesus. Silva is going to destroy, but it's minus 1,000. I can't give you Silva. What are we sipping on, Weezy? We are sipping on Hot Butcher's pizza puff here. It's called the Pizza Puff from Hot Butcher. This is a Vic Secret, Nectarone, Citra, and Superdelic hopped double India Pale Ale with tasting notes of juicy mango, candied berry, and bright tropical fruit. An absolutely lovely beverage from the great brewers over at Hop Butcher. Check them out on Lincoln Avenue and Kyler on the north side of the lovely city of Chicago. Charles Barkley says Borshchev is going to shave his opponent's ass. I think Borshchev is going to win. I think he probably wins violently. But this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, my guy Victor De Jesus called it. It's going to be Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to shave the ass of Edmund Shabazian. Ladies and gentlemen, this money line on Anthony Hernandez has been coming in all week. Minus 255 it opened. He bounced immediately to minus 305, stayed there for a day, was at minus 300 for 4 days. Minus 270, minus 260, minus 258, minus 240, minus 225, minus 220, minus 201, minus 191. I think it might be time to pull the trigger. And it might be a max bet. Might be a 5-unit bet on Anthony Hernandez here. I think he's an incredibly difficult opponent for literally anybody in the division. If you don't turn the lights off, if you don't shut his body off, he just continues to keep coming. You can't knock him out to the head. He's too durable. He's got a brick for a head. So I am picking, my most confident pick this week is Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to shave the ass of Edmund Shabazian. We've seen Edmund just wilt in the wrestling, wilt with the conditioning, wilt when his opponents put pressure on him. And that's exactly what Anthony Hernandez does best. So that's my most confident pick of the week. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to shave the ass of Edmund Shabazian. Thank each and every one of you for hanging out here on this Wednesday night edition of Just the Tip with your host, Uncle Weezy. Leave a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below. It's been a rough 16 weeks. 15 out of the last 16 weeks, we've been grinding out content. 4 or 5 shows a week for 16 out of the last 17 weeks. I am really looking forward to this break week, to a little bit of time off, to a little bit of rest and relaxation. You guys, I've earned it. And I'm going to be working hard over that week off to improve this Patreon so I can get more people to support my work through the Patreon by making that work even better, so that you're more likely to support it and purchase it and more likely to make better gambling decisions as a result of being on my Patreon. Thank each and every one of you guys. I'm done with content for the week. I'm going to pop up here real quick on this channel later on to give you a greasy 4-leg parlay for the week, but then you will not be seeing me until next Sunday for Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio. Good luck to all of you guys. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 73, then enjoy the week off. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the fights, and I will see you guys soon.